We are back with a Fox News alert. Jeffrey Epstein found dead in an apparent suicide. A gurney was seen carrying a man who looked like Epstein out of the Manhattan Correctional Center around 7:30, headed to the New York's downtown hospital. A call for reported cardiac arrest came in at 6:38, said a fire department source. 2 weeks ago, Epstein, who's 66 and deceased, was placed on suicide watch after he was found nearly unconscious in his cell with injuries to his neck. The multimillionaire financier was being held without bail pending trial for child sex trafficking charges. Jeffrey Epstein dead.
And we're now going to bring in DeRoy Murdoch, Fox News contributor and contributing editor, National Review Online. What do you make of this latest news?
I'm hearing about this for the first time, just as you all are, so this is all brand new. First of all, I'm amazed that somebody who had this incident just a couple of weeks ago, where he was found with thumbprints on his neck and so on, not clear whether he either attempted suicide or somebody got to him. Apparently he was supposed to be on suicide watch. Given how high profile a suspect and so on he is, you'd think there'd be a doctor in there with a stethoscope and a blood pressure gauge and so on, and cameras and lights to make sure that nothing like this happened. The fact he was able to either commit suicide or somebody got to him, who knows what happened, because we have so little information here, to me is by itself amazing.
Yeah, that is actually a great point. Obviously, we're waiting to hear more information before we, confirm any aspect of what just happened in terms of, how this potential suicide may have happened. But you're right. If somebody's on suicide watch for a couple of weeks, typically they are under extensive supervision. So
Absolutely
something
right.
like this would be, you would think would be almost impossible to happen. I'm wondering what happened.
If for no other reason, obviously you want to protect a suspect so the trial can go forth and justice will be delivered, but also so that people like us don't speculate. Oh my God, what happened? Did somebody get to him? Was it really a homicide, not a suicide? It doesn't help the justice system for people to raise such suspicions unfairly, and this sort of situation to have happened just creates that kind of
We don't know precisely what happened, but not a lot of empathy for this guy who's
not much.
Alleged sexual abuse of dozens of young girls in his Upper East Side townhouse in his waterfront mansion between 2002 and 2005. He pled not guilty but faced up to 45 years in jail.
Absolutely right.
He's facing a life of actual justice after the injustices he committed against so many.
Correct.
Sometimes things end this way.
And, of course, the accusation is that he was not just doing this by himself, but he had a lot of high-profile people around him. Were they involved? What was the possible involvement, if any, of former President William Jefferson Clinton, who was a guest on his airplane? He said only 4 times. Apparently the flight manifests indicate it wasn't 4, but 27.
They called it the Lolita Express?
They called it the Lolita Express. He had an island where this sort of stuff went on. They called that Orgy Island. So what was Bill Clinton's involvement in any of this, if any? What was the involvement of their high-profile people in finance and politics, et cetera? So there are a lot of very high-profile people who may be breathing a sigh of relief that this witness to all of that, all those allegations, no longer is with us.
Drew, what do you think happens now? I mean, looking forward in the next 24 hours with this new revelation, what happens to, as you mentioned, all of these people that potentially would be implicated or would have been implicated?
I guess the first question is what really happened in that cell. Did he, in fact, commit suicide? Did he just have a heart attack from all the pressure and stress? I mean, he is a man in his 60s. All of this might have gotten to him, might have been perfectly natural causes, or it might have been something not natural. So that's the first question. I would be very curious to see the autopsy results. That's the first question. The bigger ongoing question is these people were accused of being involved in the Lolita Express and Orgy Island and all that. Do they just walk, or do the prosecutors go after those people based on whatever evidence they developed against Epstein?
Wow. It's a shocker this morning.
It is a total
Absolute
shock. I just said downstairs, boy, I wonder if we'll have a quiet weekend. Well, no, we're not going to have a quiet
That's
weekend.
not going to be quiet.
No, that never happens. But
it never happens anymore.
To your point, though, if all these folks who are bringing the charges are looking for justice, and now he's dead, is there any recourse for them to get it, or does it only include going after people who would have been co-conspirators or involved in it as well?
I guess it's up to the prosecutors to decide if they're going to continue this case, number one. Number two, the little girls who are involved in this, I guess now are young women, they ought to be in touch with the Manhattan DA's office and the U.S. Justice Department and say, look, we want justice just because Epstein isn't here. The other people who allegedly were involved with him need to be brought to justice as well.
And that was a lot of powerful people.
A lot of very powerful people. In fact, I believe some documents on who the other conspirators who were involved in this were about to come out. Another question I have is, will those documents remain sealed now that there's no Jeffrey Epstein, or will those documents be released so we can find out who else might have been involved in this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this will have to continue because there are so many people that have been involved, and it wasn't just him. People are going to want these answers. So that's actually a great point that you're making about, unsealing these documents. But I feel like this is something that just won't fall flat. They're going to have to get answers. Obviously, it becomes much more complicated now, though, if he's not able to speak on the matter at all.
It does become more complicated, but you're absolutely right. I think this needs to go forward. We've developed, unfortunately, among very powerful people in this country, a culture of impunity. You saw just the other day, James Comey not going to be prosecuted over leaking these documents involved in the Russiagate situation, so he's walking on that. If we see these people walk on this, then the message again is, well, there's one set of laws for people down on the ground, another set of laws for the people up in the penthouses and the corridors of power. I think that's totally inappropriate in a country where we're all supposed to enjoy equal justice under law.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So some believe also that the case could actually be dismissed. If he's been granted release. He may not have killed himself. I mean, we don't really know.
No, we still don't know
what happened.
Yeah.
If someone got to him, ultimately in the process.
And who does that benefit? That's what the big question is.
Yeah.
If somebody got to him, or now the case doesn't go forward, who does that benefit?
There are a lot of people who wanted this man not to sing, and now he's not going to sing.
Well, the lawyers, we hear from a lot of lawyers that the odds of committing suicide in cases like this is really high, especially in the first month. I mean, think about a guy like this who's at the highest of highs. He's jetting around the world, worth a bunch of money, with politicians, former presidents, getting away with whatever he wants to get away with. And here he is now in solitary confinement in prison, facing 45 years, which means the rest of his life.
Yep.
So quite likely that it's something he induced on himself.
Well, it could be. I mean, you talk about a reversal of fortune. That's exactly what this was. I mean, to go from such great heights to such great depths. But again, all the more reason to have cameras on him all the time, have people checking on him every 10 minutes. A couple weeks ago, the guy was found unconscious, so something happened before. So it's unbelievable to me that this man didn't have just around the guard.
And the reason that happens is because he took the easy way out from his view, not having to face justice, not having to face the victims.
That's right.
All the recourse that they would get.
Just having this information get out. I mean, whether he stayed alive and went to jail or not, think of the embarrassment to him, the embarrassment to his family, the embarrassment to his loved ones and associates. Now, a lot of people say, well, he was involved in something. I'm not just sure what exactly happened. At a bare minimum, this trial would have brought all of this stuff out. It would have been in the headlines for months, probably. And now it's entirely possible this entire thing may be put in a file and never seen again.
Yeah, once again, for those just tuning in, we are reporting on Jeffrey Epstein, who has just been found dead. From the New York Post, it's a convicted pedophile. Jeffrey Epstein died overnight in an apparent suicide. Law enforcement sources told the Post Saturday a gurney carrying a man who looked like Epstein was wheeled into New York Downtown Hospital around 7:30 a.m. A call for a reported cardiac arrest came in at 6:38 a.m. Fire department sources said 2 weeks ago, Epstein, 66, was placed on suicide watch after he was found nearly unconscious in his cell with injuries to his neck. Now, obviously, we know he has been facing many child sex trafficking charges, has been on suicide watch, and so we're gonna see.
We'll see. The New York Times
more
reporting
details
right
emerging.
now that he committed suicide at a Manhattan jail, hanged himself, and his body was found this morning at roughly 7:30. So according to the New York Times.
So if that's the case, how does somebody on suicide watch manage to take, I guess, sheets of clothes, make a noose, hang it up, get a chair, whatever? I mean, at some point, somebody's got to say, wait, what's he doing? Let's go in and stop this.
Or someone's looking away.
Or maybe somebody's taking a long coffee break.